And a welcome here inside of PB&J's Lunchbox, 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. This is a very special engagement wake-up call with Dan Tortora episode as we are here with Christy Salters Martin. And Christy, I got to tell you, before we even get started, it is truly an honor to be sitting here with you, especially because if I knew nothing else about you but what Pat Orr says, she talks about you all the time. So welcome to PB&J's.
Thank you, and it's an honor for me to be here with you, to be here at PB&J, and to hang out with Pat. And I hope that things that she told you were good things, and not
always good.
Not bad things.
Always good, and we have a lot to get into, a lot to talk about today. And first and foremost, I want to congratulate you on not just when it comes to women in boxing, but women's sports in general, everything you've done for women in athletics, and on top of that, to be honored in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, we actually just did a picture, and as I held my fist up, I'm like, Sunday that gets a ring on it, so yeah. It'll be all different picture on Sunday. That's
pretty special too, to have that. What does that ring mean to you?
Wow. A lot of struggles, right? Back 1996 was my first trip here to Canastota and to the Boxing Hall of Fame, and just to see how far I personally have come, but how far women's boxing has been able to make it. We just saw probably the fight of the year between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, sold out Madison Square Garden. It's just hard to believe that two women sold out the Garden, put on a show that they did.
And that's the beautiful part of this, right, and the evolution of it all. And the Garden is the Mecca. I was just there for the Big East tournament, and it's funny how I hadn't been there in 9 years, and you walk in and you talk about, for those that don't know what it means to sell out the Garden, you walk in there, you sit down at any seat, and you look up at the ceiling, and just everything about it is different. And you get that, at least I get that feel in the Garden, that that is the sports venue, that is the Mecca, that is the home. There's a different vibe you get when you're in the Garden.
Bottom line, it's the Mecca. When you talk about it, it's like, no, I fought in the Garden. The Garden. No, you don't have to give any explanation. No, I fought in the Garden. And I got to fight in the Garden twice. So, it's just, yeah, to get that opportunity, it's unbelievable, because all of the legends, so many legends made that walk to the ring from the dressing room. So I got to follow in those same footsteps, that same path that all the greats got to go through, and so it's very special.
Those two fights you had in the Garden, do you have any fond memories from either one?
Well, it was, I'll be just straight up honest. Typical New York crowd. I walked in, the first fight I fought there was against Isra Gergra. Went in, the place was sold out. Crowd was screaming nuts, Christy, Christy, Christy. The fight was a war. I'm bleeding. She gets knocked down, but she's tough. She starts taking it. She takes it for 8 rounds. I won the fight, but I lost the crowd. So, typical New York, baby, you gotta put up or shut up, and by the end of the night, she had won the crowd over.
That's such an interesting way to put the world of sports. You won the fight, but you lost the crowd.
Right.
It's crazy how that happens sometimes.
But it's so New York, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. New York they're a fickle bunch. So, and it's funny though that now in Boston with the TD Garden, they just call, oh yeah, we're at the Garden. I'm like, you can't call that the Garden.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No.
It's a Garden, but it's not the Garden.
Right.
So there's a lot of things, like I said, to get into today, but for the first time ever, we get to see this beauty here with us, and this is something that I know you've been working on. Very important here to show everybody. You can come and get these this weekend here in Central New York, and obviously connected around all the Boxing Hall of Fame festivities. My journey through boxing, fame, abuse, murder, and resurrection, fighting for survival, Christy Martin. These are on sale right now at PB&J's. I know that I'm buying one. Mom, I got you. Please don't message the show. So we will make sure that we got this for you. But you'll be signing these as well. So here at PB&J's right now, if somebody wants to come down and grab one, and at the same time, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you while you're here for the next couple of days.
anytime, and anytime anybody would love to come hook up with me, we'll be happy to sign it. Borges he wrote the book. He's also being inducted. His class of 2022. He'll be here tomorrow. So look us up. We're gonna have books with us all weekend, wherever we may be. We'll be at the memorabilia show on Saturday. We'll be at the fights Friday night. Of course, the dinner on Saturday, and then on ground Sunday. So. Yeah, we'll be happy to sign the book, sell the book, and yeah, it's a good read. I think it will be that where somewhat the underdog story that hey, I am truly the coal miner's daughter from a small town in southern West Virginia, and really worked my butt off and made it to the top of the boxing world.
Why do you think, kind of looking back, hindsight 2020, that you got to where you are? Because there's some people that can make an excuse, right? Say, this is where I'm from, nobody thinks I'm going to make it. Somebody tells you quit now, and a lot of people do, but some don't. Why did you never stop getting up when you got knocked down way before the ring?
Because my dad made an athlete, and my mother made a fighter. And that's why. I mean, I was never going to quit.
So Dad made an athlete, you said. Why say that about Dad?
My dad was an athlete. He, grew up playing football, especially baseball, all sports. And so I just followed right after him, playing sports all the time, followed my dad around. In a small town in West Virginia, there's not a lot of options. You either play sports or drink beer. And actually, I did both. I was pretty good at them. So, yeah, that's the choices. That's the choices you have.
Got emotional. You said Mom made a fighter. Why say that about Mom?
My mom made a fighter. Because I can't give up. She's very sick right now, and she's not going to give up. She's going to keep fighting, and she'll fight until the end.
What if we could send a message to Mom right now? What would you want to tell her?
Just that I'm proud to be. I'm very proud to be the coal miner's daughter, but I'm very proud to be my mother's daughter as well.
You've had fights inside and outside of the ring. You've dealt with a lot. Sitting here today, smiling, knowing that people come out to see you that love you and appreciate you. You have friends that care about you. You have a partner that loves you, and so many people that want to hear your story. What does it mean to you to just be here, living today, sitting here?
You know what? I actually every morning wake up and thank God to just be here, because the truth is, November 23rd, 2010, I was blessed to live through that day, and I think that God left me here for one reason, and that's just to share my story with people, talk to people about domestic violence, make people more aware that it's not just about the bruises. It's there's so many different forms of domestic violence. It doesn't just go male on female. It's sometimes female on male. It's not just heterosexual couples. It's homosexual couples. It's everywhere. And just to make people more aware of what's happening with your mother, what's happening with your sister, what's happening with your neighbor, your friends. Just little, what seems like funny put downs. After a while, it's not so funny. And then usually there's something behind that. Just listen. Just listen. Just observe your surroundings. And if you are in that situation, you can't stay because you don't know the day that they're gonna flip. I mean, in my situation, I knew the day, but everybody doesn't.
Yeah. When you look back on it, were there moments where you did reach out that you felt like maybe someone didn't take it seriously? Or were there moments that you felt like, hey, I should have reached out and I didn't?
I don't truly think that I ever really reached out to somebody, but there was times that Jim Martin told people right up here at the Boxing Hall of Fame weekend that if ever I left him, he would kill me. And so, that has to weigh heavy on those people that heard him say that, or that he said it too. But who believes it? Who really believes it other than me? I knew that this was the way it was going to end. And people that are truly in these type of relationships, they're aware that this is how it's going to end. So when somebody tells you they're gonna kill you, you know, it's not a joke. And even if that, you know, you just have to make a move on it. Don't ever take it as a joke.
Going back to that day and everything that you went through, I mean, to look at your story, I think the first question people ask is how. How did you survive? How did you get past it? How did you get through it? How did you even get up off the floor? When you look back on that, what do you remember from somehow, some way? It almost seems superhuman that you made it through that day.
God is good, and I always say that from day one, minute one, after waking up in the hospital, I say, you know, God has a plan for me, and I didn't get myself up off the floor. I had tried numerous times to stand up and get out, and every time I would try to raise up, like blood would squirt out all these holes in me, and I would get scared and lay back down. But this time, I prayed hard, and I said, you know, please, God, give me a sign, give me something to tell me how to get out of here. And I heard the shower water turn on, and I was like, that's God telling me, it's time, Christy. For whatever reason, however reason, I was able to get up. I got up, I got my car keys, I actually took the gun that he shot me with, and got out of the house. Of course, when I get to the car, I'm going to drive myself. I've been shot, stabbed, you know, I'm all cut up. My lung is punctured. I'm going to drive myself to the hospital, but I had the wrong keys. So at that point, my choices are go back in the house or, as I say, carjack somebody, and that's what I chose to do, was carjack someone.
And you're here today.
And I'm here today. God is good.
And you're here today to share that story. And like you said, there's so many different types of domestic violence, domestic abuse. There's verbal and physical. There's a lot of things that people don't talk about. And like you said, people joke things off. So your message on being a fighter in the ring and being a fighter out of the ring, how do you carry that daily? And by the way, I told you this off the air, but I love the shirt. I love the shirt.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, you know, from my life, and then from the Netflix documentary. I clearly told Jim, you can't kill me, and not so nice words, but I meant it. I mean, that when I said to him, you can't kill me, I don't think he could have killed me at that particular moment. And you know, it's just being a fighter. It's what I am. It's who I am, and I'm gonna fight and continue trying to bring more awareness to domestic violence, to bring awareness to struggles people have with their sexuality, all these things that God put a lot on me. Sometimes I tell him, look, I know you're not going to put more on me than I can handle, but you think I'm a lot stronger than I am. But all these different things, I need to share my story and reach out to people and just, hey, sometimes when you hear someone else's story, it becomes a little easier for you to walk down that path.
There's a lot that has happened in your life, and this is a 3-word question, but it's very hard for people to answer this question. Are you happy?
Of course I'm happy.
Why?
Because I'm me. I'm true to me. I'm comfortable in my own skin. That's it. Bottom line, I'm comfortable in my own skin. Probably for the first time in my life. I mean, it's been a long road to get here, but I'm here, and I plan on staying for a while and really trying to make a difference.
When you're in the public eye and you're in the entertainment world and the sports world, people think they know Christy Salters Martin.
Yeah.
But they don't really know all of you, obviously. Do you feel like you finally are exactly who you were meant to be?
Honestly, I think I'm still working and trying to find who I am, because as crazy as it may sound and as crappy as it is, there's still sometimes that I hear Jim's voice, and he beat me down so badly, and like sometimes when I make a decision on something, I have to really check myself and like, whoa, wait a minute, Christy, is that how you feel, or that's how he taught you to feel? And so I'm still working on it. I'm still growing. I'm still finding me.
Those moments where you have to ask yourself, is this Jim's voice or is it my voice? What do you use to talk yourself through it? And are there certain tools in your tool chest that you've kind of come up with over time to say, hey, when I have that moment where I feel myself start to go, this is what pulls me back? Do you have something that does that for you?
I think what really does it is that I now realize that that's what's happening. Where before, I just let him take control. I let him rule my mind, really. And now I realize it and I deal with it and don't just basically take his answer and like that's not gospel. I'm just not going to hear his voice anymore. And it's hard. It's hard because that was the voice for 20 years that beat me down, and then in front of people, in the public and through boxing, he tried to build me up and convince people that he loved me and he wanted the best for me.
When you go through what's real, it's funny how what's real was in the background, what's fake was in the foreground. What do you learn from all of that? How life to us watching wasn't real and everything that we didn't see was.
It's so hard because everything is so intertwined. Because people will say, well, would you do it again? Well, I really can't separate boxing from my personal life. So was my boxing career awesome? Absolutely. Did I do things in boxing that I could only imagine or not even dream? Don King was my promoter. As we already talked about, I fought in the Garden. I fought at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. I saw lots of the world on someone else's dime. How could I not want to do that? But my personal life was just hell. And it was just like being controlled all the time. And I could just never get away.
You brought up on a light note here, Don King. To say he has a personality is a severe understatement. How did you link up with Don King, and how would you describe experiencing him in a closer nature? A lot of us get to see him from afar, but you actually got to work with him.
The really cool thing is I'm still working with them. Yeah. I'm working with them, and he begged me to please, Christy, leave the Hall of Fame on Saturday. I'll fly you down. You be at my show Saturday night. I'll fly you back Sunday morning. And I almost did it, and I was like, I can't, because what if the flight was delayed, or I shouldn't miss anything that's happened this weekend. So I'm here. Clearly, I'm going to be here for all the events. I met Don King because Jesse Robinson was training fighters for him, and Jesse happened to see me training in Daytona Beach, Florida, at that time. And he told me then, he said, I'm gonna take you to Don King. And I'm thinking, sure, you're gonna take me to Don King. You hear so many stories, and so many people tell you they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, and none of it ever happens. So I didn't believe Jesse either. But sure enough, one day my phone rang, and he said, Don King wants to see you. And so, we jumped in the car and headed to South Florida, and just a few minutes later, I was signing with Don King.
What do you think brought that about that Don King saw? What do you think he saw in you when you look back on it?
I have no idea. It's all crazy to me. Why he would give me an opportunity, why he would even think about women's boxing. And with all the happenings now in women's boxing, I'm getting a lot of credit. But really the truth is, Don King, we need to be right there. Don King needs to be right beside me, because he gave me an opportunity that no other promoter was considering giving a female fighter at the time.
And you and I were talking off the air about the fact that obviously the evolution of female fighting, and now that names might be more household to people. But when you look back on it, and I know you're humble, do you feel like you did start the trend, start the domino fall?
I think I was in the right place at the right time, but I was ready to take advantage of the opportunity. And Showtime and Don King, and then of course Mike Tyson drew everybody to the TV set to watch the fights, and then I was the opening act. So they were introduced to Christy Martin at least, and then they start saying, wow, if she can fight like that, then maybe some other women can fight like that. So it really gave women's boxing a shot in the arm that was unexpected or unanticipated, I think, at the time. And we kind of went up and down, and in a lull, and boom, we just had Taylor Serrano that really, really gave another big, huge shot in the arm. So let's see. Hopefully, women's boxing can continue to grow off that.
You brought up Mike Tyson being on the undercard there. What was that like for you? Because obviously, like you said, exposure-wise, phenomenal to get you out there, that if someone's going to pay attention to what was coming up with Mike, that hopefully they paid attention to also what was going on in general and got to see you on the way into that fight. So what can you say about the experience of that? And, I mean, ironically, I've been up to the International Boxing Hall of Fame 3 times. I went up to walk through. And I consider this being a part of it, sitting with you as you're being honored. And then the other time that I was there for an induction was for Mike Tyson and also for Sylvester Stallone. So I remember Mike's speech there, and I remember he cried in that speech. So what can you say about being a part of that, being an undercard, and just what that was like for you? Because Mike he's a fighter. He's also, I don't think there's a better way to put it, he's Mike Tyson.
Right, he's Mike Tyson. So everybody, I mean, can you imagine if we were like social media now, like then? Well, yeah, we would have been way big. We would have been way big. But Mike Tyson was very supportive. Always encouraged Don King to keep me on his undercards, and he actually bought me a BMW in 1996. I still drive it today.
That's awesome.
So he's been very supportive. It was on a Netflix documentary. Gives me, big props for women's boxing and the success that women's boxing is seeing today. He's always been supportive of my career, and I appreciate that. Look, I like to see people get knocked out, so I was a huge fan.
You talk about, obviously, the Netflix documentary and his part in it, and a lot of people that lend their voices and their positive words towards you in the Netflix series Untold, Deal with the Devil. Why did you want to do it, and what did you take from it?
I thought it was important to do because, as I said earlier, God left me here for a reason. And this way, I could not imagine before how many people were going to be touched by that documentary. But once it released, I mean, my social media pages, the messages were just from not just here in the United States, from around the world.
Yeah.
It was truly unbelievable, and I'm still getting messages regarding the documentary, and that help people make a decision to leave, or just gave them a little inspiration, or some way touch them. So it's doing what it was supposed to.
How did it come about with Netflix that this opportunity was even there?
I think I got a call from one of the Wayans brothers. I can't remember which one called me first, and me being me, and I've been through boxing for like 20 years, so people call you and talk crap all the time. Oh, I have this offer, I have that offer, So I just took it as another one of those. Oh, yeah, that'd be great, and then I'll never hear from him again. But I heard from him again and again and again, and so finally we worked out the deal, and the documentary was done.
So we talked a little bit about this, but this is ironically, the next chapter, we could call this, maybe in your story. Why was it so necessary to have a hardcover account of what happened with you, and to extend this out to the community and to let people really see what your fight for survival was? Why make this book, and why have this come out right now?
Well, other than the reason that, Pat Ward does really great pictures, and she got the cover,
Is there a thank you to her in here?
So I, there's a few things in the book that are definitely not talked about in the Netflix documentary. And people still read. Sometimes people read and they want to go back and read it again. I need a little bit. I need a little boost today, right? So let me go read whatever chapter it might be that really affected them. So hopefully that's what happens with the book, and it'll give people a little inspiration.
You mentioned, obviously, Ron's input in this as well. So to have that experience with Ron, what does that mean to you, that you got to have this project together?
Well, of course, I have a great Ron Borges story. Ron Borges was one of those guys, back in the 90s that was absolutely 120% against women's boxing. So when King put me on the shows, he was like, "Oh my God, we got to sit to this female fighter." So it took me a while, over time, and finally I won him over. So to sit with him and do the book was special. And then we knew a lot of the same people, obviously, from the '90s, and we had, he has great boxing stories, and I felt like we had. I don't really want to call it a father-daughter connection, because I talked to him about stuff that I would never in a million years talk to my dad about. But we just had a special connection, and I was able just to open up with him and not feel like I was getting any kind of like he didn't raise his eyebrow at me like, "Are you crazy?" It was really good. We sat and we talked for hours and hours and hours, and I'm glad for him to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and hopefully we'll have a great weekend.
You've won a lot of fights, but winning him over for being against women in boxing, is that one of the greatest victories?
Oh, absolutely. Bert Sugar was another one that absolutely hated women's boxing, but we share the same birthday weekend, and so for many years I got to celebrate my birthday with Bert Sugar. Of course, he would never give me any credit as a fighter, but as a human being, we always got along just fine, and that was what was important to me.
1989 to 2012. That is a long time to be in the ring and get after it. And we were talking off the air about it too, that you never wanted to come out of the ring even after a stroke.
Even after a stroke, and now I get calls. I do get calls every now and then. They're like, we're doing these exhibition fights, and how about you fighting whoever? And I'll be like, yeah, well, how much are you paying? And then Lisa says, no, it doesn't matter how much they're paying. Your health is more important. But yeah, it was important to me to go back and try to get that 50th win. So I actually lied to the California Boxing Commission, and I had a stroke, a severe stroke, and wanted to still get that win. It was important. And I lost to Mia St. John, and when I lost to Mia, I knew my boxing career was over, because I had zero respect for her.
Would you ever do it? I'm sorry, Lisa. Would you ever do it again?
For sure.
Okay. So, looking at who's in the world of women's boxing today, who do you look to as a beacon of hope?
I think Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano both. They're both really great. They're great people. It seems like both of them are really, really solid people that you would want to go, hang out with. But they're both really, really, really good fighters. And so I think they both can connect to the boxing fans. But it's not just about connecting to the fans. They're also going to put a show on once they're in the ring.
And before we finish up here, to have 1989 to 2012, you saw decades of hopeful evolution of women's boxing. When you look back on it, what are the things that maybe stuck out the most in your time in the ring that you thought, wow, in the beginning it wasn't like this, or now we have these types of fighters now? What was it that you feel changed the most from 89 to 2012?
Oh, well, probably the most obvious thing that changed the most, I think in 1989 when I did my pro debut, I made $400. So I'm pretty sure, Taylor Serrano both just pocketed $1 million. So the purses definitely are different. I had no dressing rooms. I had doctors that didn't want to do physicals because they didn't want to do physicals for a female fighter. Just getting on a show was almost impossible. So yeah, it's come a long way.
Your mission statement from here out as a final note. If I said Christy Salters Martin is blank, fill in that blank for me.
A fighter. All aspects of life, a fighter.
Well, the book is on sale. If you see her with this, you can not only buy it, but have her sign it. I am putting my money where my mouth is, and I am buying a copy while I have you here, so we could sign it. I also brought boxing gloves because Pat told me, she said, make sure you have some gloves. So I'm set and ready for this. But Christy, I know it's the first time that you and I got to sit down, but it's been a true honor and a privilege for me to be able to do this. I feel like we barely scratched the surface, and I would love to be able to tell more of your story, but I would be remiss if I didn't say, above all things today, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. Thank you for fighting, because your fight to live is going to give somebody else, or probably already has, given them the belief that they can fight to live as well.
I certainly hope so, and I thank you for the time today. But we're definitely going to talk more, and we're going to talk about Christy's Champs and domestic violence awareness, and keep moving forward.
We definitely will. Well, I'm going to ask you to do this because this is important to me, and you, above all, deserve to do this. So I call it the drop the mic, and it's exactly what I say it is. Christy, it is time for us to drop the mic. You ready? On
Let's do
three?
it.
1, 2, 3.